Here on KGRA Radio, welcome to the Richard Dolan Show, where every week we fight the good fight. Greetings. Glad to be back here on KGRA after a brief hiatus. And my very first guest is Mr. Jimmy Church. Normally, I'm Jimmy's guest on his show on Fade to Black, which he does 4 nights a week on KGRA. It's a fantastic show. He's been doing this, I don't know how many years now. Jimmy's going to have to tell me. But this is the first time Jimmy's been my guest. There's more than enough I would like to ask Mr. Jimmy about, and hopefully we'll get right into it. So, Jimmy, welcome to the Richard Dolan Show.
It's about time, Richard.
It is about time.
I've been begging to get on your show for 5 years. 5 years you've been putting
That's
me on.
not long.
Yeah, 5 years. I can't. But it's great, and thank you for the opportunity. And also, I've got to state the obvious, where we get to turn this around. We get to turn this around, and I am the guest. You are the host, and it can't get any better than that. Thank you so much.
I have to behave now, and you can let your hair down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
That's the rules.
I'm almost nervous, right? So there
Well,
you go.
I'll just say the reason I didn't think I wasn't opposed to interviewing you, but I just thought, well, Jimmy, he's a guy, he's an interviewer. He's a host. He has his own show. And I guess I didn't really think of you as being a guest on my show, but you have a wealth of knowledge now. You've been in the front lines of reporting on the UFO subject and everything related to it for 5 years. So you know everyone in the field. You know many people in this field that I do not know. You're on top of a lot of issues that you get there before I do. So actually, you're a great person to interview for many things relating to the UFO subject. So yeah, actually, it's way overdue. Glad to have you here now, and you can kind of talk about some things that are on your mind. There's one or two things that I definitely wanted to make sure I asked you about. If I may just jump right in. One of the things that I'm constantly concerned about now is YouTube censorship. It's been one of these things that I get dinged every so often. They'll demonetize my video for reasons that are utterly mystifying. But then I come and learn from you that you were getting it much, much worse than me. And I just wonder if you can explain that a little bit, clarify what actually happened with you and YouTube and why they seem to put you in the corner for a little while.
Yeah, it was a big surprise, first off, because we have maintained our YouTube presence for over 10 years and have always had a great relationship with YouTube and have been a YouTube partner going back, I don't even know now, 7, 8 years, a long time. No community strikes, no copyright issues. The only copyright issues were people stealing our content, which was something that was running rampant to the point where it was more and more difficult for us to keep up with. And about 5 years ago, we hired a management company that actually approached us, one of the bigger, if not the biggest management companies for YouTube. And they work with the NFL and HBO boxing and all the big YouTube channels out there, but they also represent the biggest advertisers, right? The advertisers that you would normally see on YouTube advertising, like Verizon or Coca-Cola, and stuff like that. And so that kind of premium advertising was attractive to us. And because we were running clean and everything was good, they pulled us in. And the manager of that channel, for this company that manages our channel, is also an Art Bell fan, right?
Okay.
Ancient Aliens, and we've had all these discussions privately about the UFO subject, which was pretty cool that I had somebody like that in my corner at a big company like this. And of course, he listens to Coast to Coast. He knows who I am. We hit the ground running, and all of that was cool. Everything ran smooth. No issues. Growth on the channel, profitability, and it was worth the effort. This is the way we approached YouTube, Richard, and I'm going to make this very quick because there's a lot of things going on with our corporation. But it's this. We're a live radio show. YouTube is only an archive for us. That's it. We don't do anything custom for YouTube. We just archive the shows. And for
Mhm.
people that cruise around on YouTube and get their entertainment or their knowledge from YouTube, that's where they go. We understood that. So we used it just as an archive platform.
Well, I think that would make you like many other content producers for YouTube. Many of them are not creating it initially on YouTube, right?
Right.
They create it elsewhere and they put it on YouTube.
That's right. And a lot of corporations and networks and movie studios, that's what they use the platform for. And not necessarily creating custom YouTuber type content. And now for us, where we have always maintained a membership area, we've always run the radio show live for free on many syndications, including, of course, KGRA, which is a very big live outlet for us and the community. And we've always had a podcast and different ways to archive and iHeartRadio and so we've been across the board. YouTube was our little archive station where we just uploaded and no big deal
Sure.
and it just ran. Well, the monetization of YouTube is a very small part of what we do. We didn't create the YouTube channel for money. We created it for a historical public archive where the shows sat and were unedited and were there. Okay. It went well for us. And then about 6 months ago, things started to go funky. Now, not only did it start to go funky with censorship out there with different platforms, such as, just bring up Alex Jones, for example.
Right.
And people started to see channels disappear. They were disappearing for not necessarily conspiracy stuff, but for CBD or for pot. People that were growing weed and showing how to grow weed, whatever, or alternative medicine, weight loss, whatever, anything like that on YouTube. Suddenly, if you had 3 videos up that mentioned anything in their community guidelines list, these keywords, you got 3 community strikes and your channel was struck.
You seriously cannot go against big pharma anymore.
You can't, and CBD and the federal guidelines, which are slowly changing. But YouTube, and this included channels back with our management company that had 1 million subscribers. And if they had a CBD ad or a CBD conversation or a weight loss conversation or alternative medicine, not only alternative medicine, but herbal remedies like pine bark drops, right?
Is
Or
this why they went after you? Because you had interviews on your show. I'm assuming.
Sure.
Interviews on CBD or alternative health, I'm guessing.
Well, the answer is no. Well, I don't think so, but that's not what YouTube said. So let's go back to 6 months ago.
Yeah.
We used YouTube's live stream, which is a pretty nice function. It was 6 months ago and a year ago, where you could take the live stream, but not stream it on YouTube. You could use their codecs, put the stream on mute publicly so nobody could see it, but you could take the stream and run it to your website, right? So you could have a private, TV screen on your website and run on YouTube's codecs. And a lot of people did that. I'm talking about Tesla, space.com, these big corporations around the world were all taking advantage of what was really good streaming services, where you didn't have to go out and pay somebody $1,000 a stream per day for a private codec and a private stream to your website. You would just mute it on YouTube, run it to your website, and then Tesla's space launch could run on Tesla, but not run on YouTube. The reason why today, and this is what happened to us, the reason why today Tesla, or I'm just using Tesla because they live stream so much, they do a launch of the rocket and it's on Tesla's website, but it's also streaming on YouTube, right? because
Okay.
YouTube about 6 months ago stopped that. If you ran a live stream and you hit public and went private, right? It
Yes.
would shut down the stream going to your site. It would shut down the stream totally. So when this happened to us, because we had a private, stream going, and we called it the bunker cam for the fader knots, no big deal. But when they did that, the only thing that would fix it was to have it go live stream on YouTube, and then suddenly they would give us our stream for our private website, which
Well, couldn't
made
it go a live stream on YouTube and you would just have it as a private video, so it would be available only to those with a link. So, right,
right.
in
But
effect, it would still be an off limits video to the rest of the world.
but YouTube wouldn't allow that to happen if you did two alternate streams, and they ran software to chase this down. And it got to the point where it would stream on YouTube, not stream on our site, right? And we're going through the settings, public or hidden or whatever. But the second you went from private or hidden and back to public, our stream would pop up on our website. So what that turned us into now was live streaming on YouTube. And this is where we should have at that point made decisions, but we didn't do it. We went ahead, and it was cheating the fader knots, right? Because they had their own little private stream of Fade to Black. Now it's streaming on YouTube. Well, what's the point of being a fader knot if the rest of the world gets our private party, right? That's not cool. And we ran with it, and we ran with it for about 6 months. And running these live streams, which I'm not a TV show. I don't care about a live stream on YouTube. I don't care about those things. I'm a radio guy. And the bunker cam was just something fun but I don't want to have thousands of people each night watching me talk into a microphone. That's not my gig, right? So anyway.
A lot of people like that.
Well, I
A
know
lot of
they do.
people like that.
It's strange. It's strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, so about 2 months ago now, it's been about 2 months, I get this notice from YouTube that says a routine audit of your channel has revealed that most, and that was the key word there, most of your content is not yours. Therefore, we are demonetizing your platform. If you do this again, we will strike your channel without further notice. And I'm reading this email. I went, this doesn't make sense. So I go over to the YouTube channel. Sure enough, they demonetized the entire channel. I went to channel status. There's another ominous message from YouTube stating that my content wasn't mine. And I thought, wait a minute here.
How is that possible?
How is that possible, right? And without any strikes, without any warning, without any this, nothing. And I thought, okay, this is where I'm not going to play to the man. This time, either, because we have 100,000 subscribers, small by YouTube standards, but they are a dedicated audience that,
right.
That is has been there for us. Right. So now what do I do? Do I just pull down the channel out of anger? Do I capitulate to the man? Do I do that? What do I do? Well, we made the decisions that we should have done 6 months ago. We went and we got and paid for a company to do our own streaming. Now, it's expensive, but I'm not going to have YouTube after this monetize my live streams and make money off of it if they're going to treat me this way. Number one. Number two, that the amount of, and you can go and search right now, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black on YouTube, and you are going to come up with somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million to 1.5 million videos. I've only posted 1,400.
How is that possible?
Those are the pirates, the bandits that are stealing our content and monetizing it. And all of these fake Fade to Black channels that are out there, they're all over the place. And I thought, why YouTube? Why don't you go and clean up your own house? Why don't you help me fix this problem? But they want to threaten me to bring down my channel because my content is not my own. No, so we just backed up. We're not archiving anymore on YouTube. We're not doing that. We're not going to give YouTube the money. We are, we have our archive platforms that have already been in place. Now, this is the thing. We didn't change anything that we've always done over the years, which is memberships and a podcast and archives and iHeartRadio and everything. It's always been the same for years. What we've chosen to do is not give YouTube the opportunity to come back and say, hey, your stuff is not your own. We're not archiving there anymore. And so therefore, and there's no more live streams. So we're not going to make the mistakes that they are talking about, but we're also not going to allow them to make money.
So what is your YouTube status now then? Are you putting anything up there or are you gone?
No, we're just doing custom content. And I posted my first video last week, exclusive only to YouTube. And I did a science thing about the universe, and I did a video, and it was a lot of fun to do. And that was also something that I've wanted to do over the years, which is things that interest me, right? Instead of me being the interviewer, I would like to do short little documentaries on subjects that I can expand upon and maybe put my ideas out there, because I don't interject my ideas on the show. It's about the guest.
Well, I'm not really sure what you did that was wrong, or what you're doing that anyone else does differently, or that I'm doing differently.
Right.
So I'm just expecting YouTube to come after me.
Yeah. And they did right when we got our letter, they did the same thing to Veritas. And and I'm looking when Veritas posted the letter, it was the exact same letter that I got. So our attorneys and the legal side for our company that manages us,
and he's been doing this even longer than you as a show.
Right. That's right. That's right.
He has a very good show.
Yes, it's an amazing show.
Yeah.
And YouTube gave us back our channel after about a week of wrangling with our management company.
Jimmy, can I just understand this a little bit? So is this because you were running YouTube unlisted videos to your website, or is there something else that I'm missing?
No. See, this is the thing. I want to be very clear here. The changes that YouTube has started doing, which happened about a year ago, where there was a complete freedom of speech on YouTube. There was complete user creativity. There were things that you could do, like doing your own live stream, but not broadcast it, but live stream it to your own, whatever platform you wanted to outlook. For instance,
you could have, a YouTube screen on a private website.
Yes, or
available to members of that site.
For Facebook, for example, where you could mute it on YouTube and stream it to something else. It doesn't have to be on YouTube. Well, they stopped that, and that was a very creative thing for somebody that has got ideas. A very cool tool to take advantage of. Maybe
I'm just wondering if I'm in violation as well, because I create videos as well that do not go on YouTube. They're simply unlisted, or I could make them private. These are different. Not everyone's aware of this. So, when you watch something on YouTube, it's a public video and it's searchable and anyone can find it. But people can create videos that are unlisted, of course, that are not available on YouTube unless you give someone a link to that. So I do that all the time on my own website.
Yep.
Is that different than what you're doing, or is that the same thing?
No, it's the same thing. And because they
come after me.
Well, because they curtailed that and they stopped that, at the same time, when they started removing these channels in mass, and I'm talking about the freedom of thought stuff, like I said, like growing weed in your backyard. you know,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to grow pot or CBD or conspiracies or UFOs, 9/11, right? Oh man.
Oh no,
So
they
this
come after me all the time on that.
they
I
do.
I get my videos demonetized. It's not because of what you're discussing, although you've got me worried, but it has all the time to do with whether I'm talking about 9/11 or some other off limits topic, which sometimes I don't even think that I do. But
It's
even
all
if I talk about YouTube censorship, I think that that actually
I
triggers.
know, right? Now see this okay, now here's the ticket. This is what most people don't understand. There is no 1-800 number to call YouTube and complain, right? So you can't do
Right.
that if anything happens. That does not exist. You can't get a human on the phone. That does not exist. I used to have a YouTube representative. I had him for about a year, and it was great. They contacted me, and he said, "Look, our software picked up on your channel. We like what's going on. The amount of minutes that are listened to per month are through the roof, and your content. We would like to talk to you about the success of your channel and how you know, and we're here to help and anything that you need." I thought, wow, this is great.
It's amazing, right?
I'm a guy at YouTube, right? So that lasted about a year, and I've got a great relationship with them.
Mhm.
Well, when all of these channels started to get struck in mass, and it started about a year ago, YouTube wants to, this is their goal ultimately. Their goal is to be Amazon. They want to be Netflix. They want to be
Yeah.
Disney. They want to be an actual streaming network that their advertisers know that they can come and safely place their advertising in something controlled like ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox on television.
Which is
And
why perhaps when you do searches on anything on YouTube nowadays, you get NBC, ABC, Fox, CNN all the time. We
yeah,
talked about this our last when I was being interviewed on your show. How
yes,
all UFO news is pictures of Luis Elizondo,
yes,
right? Page
yes,
after
yes, yes,
page,
yes.
and a little
So
bit flavor.
on my the next video that I'll be doing tonight for YouTube is on the Great Pyramid, right? Okay, it's called Great Pyramid by the Numbers. And you know, and I'm doing research. I'm looking for images, and I jumped over to YouTube for a second. I'm literally searching Great Pyramid dates, right?
Right?
That's my search term.
Yes.
10 Fox News videos popped up in a row about Egypt. Right? I was like,
Like
what,
brutal.
what is going? Don't they have a clue? Okay, so back to my point.
Yeah.
All of the channels, all of the monitoring of the channels is done with AI and software. There
Of
are
course.
no humans listening to Richard Dolan. It doesn't happen that way. So the flags that you get, the demonetization that you get, or I get, or anybody else, or all these threats, come from AI. There is something in the conversation because they scan every single video that's put up, of which there are on a daily basis billions. Well, they don't. You know, there's no humans that monitor that. It's all
Of course.
done. It's all done through AI. And if you step out of bounds and you say a couple of keywords a couple of times, you are going to get flagged. That's it. And that's the issues that we have today. The other part,
Now
and
we have
which
one
is
minute for a break. I'm actually keeping track of this. Aren't you
okay,
impressed? We have 1 minute to break.
1 minute. Okay, can I do the break?
You can, yes.
Okay, I'm going to do the break. Do the break in 45 seconds. I'm watching my atomic clock. Is this with all of the systematic single day takedowns that they have done lately? That was a decision done by humans. And now, where you know, whether it's conservative or conspiracy or whatever it is that is making these decisions, they are doing it without warning. And that's even scarier. That's more 1984 than the AI. You're listening to the Richard Dolan Show on KGRA. Richard's guest tonight is me. And we'll be right back after this short break.
All right. All right, I just ended that. We're going to start right up. We're back here on the Richard Dolan Show. I'm with my guest, Jimmy Church. Jimmy, we're talking about YouTube and
Yes.
fascinating. And you were just making this point, which I'm really glad you emphasized this. There's two elements of this censorship that's going on. One is the AI algorithms that are monitoring, searching for keywords through hundreds of millions, billions of conversations on YouTube all the time, kind of like a greater version of the NSA, most likely. And then there's definitely the clear political censoring that is definitely taking place, deplatforming against whether voices are perceived as conservative. That's obviously a target, or a conspiratorial. I'm waiting for the hammer to come down on the UFO field. I think
It's happening now. Yeah, it's certainly happening now, and the days when you see something in the news where, and we've seen this many times now, where it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube and Google search engines have all removed somebody at the same time. That is a decision that's done up in Palo Alto, with I can imagine, right, a group Skype call. Okay, let's all do this at 11 o'clock. All right, let's go. And that is something where we are now dealing with a serious monopoly issue, and where humans are making decisions about what they think we should or shouldn't see or hear. And I'm sorry, we fought really hard for this country for the opposite of that.
And I really have to jump in here because it's of one particular culture making this decision. We're talking Southern California corporate culture that is making this decision on behalf of the world.
And this is okay. And this is what is bizarre with that. Okay. As crazy as that is, what you just said, here's the crazier part. The internet, Palo Alto, San Mateo, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, was built on pirates, was built by rebels, was built by punk rock music listening nerds that wanted freedom of speech, wanted the freedom of the internet, didn't want to have the man interfere with anything. And they had this subculture going on, and that was their morals, and that was their lifestyle. They've lost it. Everything that they believed in, they are now doing the opposite, and it doesn't make any sense. They've made so much money up there. So, these Birkenstock wearing rebels that were literally creating this space for all of us to go and make friends and communicate and share ideas, and this beautiful idea, this germ of this idea blossomed into a worldwide phenomenon. But now those same software and code writers and web designers and network and social media platform builders and visionaries own islands in Fiji. They're not out there on the street anymore. They are removed from the very culture that they created. And they don't get it now. And by doing this, it's the opposite of what their ideals were in the beginning, which made it all so wonderful.
Well, they're merging with absolutely merging with the national security apparatus. Guarantee you those Skype calls you were referring to a little earlier probably had some people from Langley and the DC area participating. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And this is the other thing. When I talk about, a crazy word like monopoly, what most people don't realize, and when I say most, I mean everybody, is that there is 7.5 billion people on this planet. 7.5 billion. Okay. You can remove about 1 billion at the bottom that live in poverty, that don't have internet access. But there's another 5.5 billion people on this planet that are on the internet. All 5 billion, all of them only have access through Facebook, Google, and YouTube. And stop and just think about what I just said. That's it. And so you have this cycle going through where
You're saying the vast majority, overwhelming number of people who are on internet are accessing internet through Facebook,
YouTube,
and
Google,
which owns YouTube, of course.
That's right. And this is how it works. This is the fascinating part about this. Talk about money. The amount of money that we are talking about here on a global control scale is this. Somebody goes on Facebook, they see a video, they're cruising Facebook, they've got all that advertising in their face, right? They see a video, they click on that, they go over to YouTube. Now they're on YouTube and watching those videos and the advertising. Some word pops in their head from watching this video. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Roswell 1947, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. So they punch that into the Google search engine, and now this cycle, right? It's a cycle. They are bouncing between Facebook, YouTube, and Google all day long. That's their internet experience everywhere on this planet. It's a scary amount of control. So
we've seen these search algorithms clearly being rigged over the past year or more. I mean, I'm sure they were being rigged even earlier than that, but I think it was more subtle. But nowadays, with Google search results, you've really got to step up your game if you're going to do a decent search on Google, because you really have to know how to search to get exactly what you want. Otherwise, you're going to be led to a corporate news site or corporate information that's got the little green check bar.
It all comes and when I say that it all comes down to money, that search that you're talking about, they are absolutely with their software figuring out the best way to monetize you. All of it is planned that way. And most people, again, I keep going back to this, they don't realize how connected you are. Most people, when they turn off their computer and walk out of their house and get in the car, think that the connection's over with. It's not. You've got your Android phone in your hand, which has got Chrome on it. Android is owned by Google. Chrome is owned by Google. They now know that you're getting in your car, and they probably know what store you are driving to. And your purchases, your searches on the internet, and with Chrome at home, with Chrome on your phone.
Wait for 5G to roll out. It's going to be even more intense.
Every step. Okay, so this is for everybody that is listening to this program right now. I want you to digest what I'm about to say. All right? And it's this. Every single day, every day. In fact, I'm going to give you a crack at guessing this, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day, how much data do you think Google collects on you? Give it to me in megabytes.
Oh, God. Megabytes information that Google collects on me.
Yep. Just take a guess.
I'm going to guess 100 gigabytes. So that would be what?
750 per person.
750 megabytes?
50 megabytes.
Okay, so close to a gig.
Stats. Now, check this out. 750 megabytes per person, okay? If it was printed on a piece of paper in 12-point font, okay? 750 megabytes in 12-point font per person, you stack that paper up, it would go per day, 24-hour period, per day, would go from Earth to Mars and back 7 times.
Good God, man.
Think about that. Every single day.
My day's not that exciting.
There is no way to reverse this process. Yeah. We are so far gone and so far into it. You know, where we were in 1995, with the excitement of making friends and in England, in
Yeah.
America Online's buddy chat or whatever that was called.
Right.
Your friend, your buddy list. Those were great days. And they quickly figured out a way to absolutely collect the data, sell the data, monetize everything. I'll never forget the first time I had a pop-up ad on my computer. I almost threw it out the window. Right? The internet was supposed to be about freedom, and what are these pop-ups? And they have cleverly figured it out. And that's it. That there is no reversing the trend. The number one profitability aspect for AT&T and for Verizon, AT&T, right? One of the biggest service providers. That's what I use. I use AT&T on my iPhone sitting right here.
Right.
Is selling data. And the reason for that is the data is free. Right? AT&T is just sitting on it. It's free. It's free. So you sell it. It is so profitable. It is the most profitable your data about who you are, the simple stuff, your basic age group, your ethnicity, and where you live, the basic stuff, that's the most important thing to any advertiser.
With all that data, they can create personality profiles of you in which they could probably predict our behaviors better than we can.
Absolutely.
With that data available and with the right algorithms to do the analysis and so on. Can I switch gear just slightly? I don't want to move away from this topic entirely because it's fascinating, but I want to go back to the UFO subject because I was speculating that I really think the hammer, the censorship hammer on YouTube anyway, is ready to come down on the UFO field in general. I mean, they've been deplatforming political conservatives for some time. That's been quite obvious. They've got a clear political agenda in that regard. If you're anti-globalist, I mean, my goodness, you could take the position of Ralph Nader 20 years ago, put that on YouTube, and they'd find a way to deplatform you now. That's, I think, how far it's gone. But with UFOs, it's odd because what I've been noticing, and you and I have talked about, is when we talk about organizations like TTSA and the fact that the UFO, or let us call it the UAP now, subject has been getting significant media coverage compared to, say, 5 years ago. At least it seems to most of us, right? A lot of the coverage that's appeared in print media, on the web, and on television is a bit more sympathetic than it used to be. Having said that, does it seem to you, because it seems like this to me, that there is a growing acceptance of UAP, but a very circumscribed kind of a new reality, as it were, and where all the old stuff, all the old conspiratorial stuff about UFOs, that's being pushed away, and a lot of the other undesirable types of information. Am I right? Do you agree with this, that there's kind of a redefinition of this subject that's going on, and anything that doesn't fit that definition is likely to get the hammer?
Yeah, and it's also it is going on, and it's also cyclical. If we stop and analyze this, we have gone through 3 or 4, maybe 5 distinct phases of the way that UFOs were looked at in popular culture and the media. It certainly changed from the 50s into the 60s, and then into the 70s, and then into the 80s. We have these very distinct periods of ufology. And certainly now, moving into where we are now in 2019, there is a generalized changing of this UFO. What's the word that I want to use for this? UFO term. Let's just go with that.
Sure.
Into UAP. And if you go back, this isn't sudden. This isn't. It's not sudden like it happened last year with a TTSA. They would like to, plant a flag there and say that it's them. It is not. If you go back to Hillary Clinton's
exactly
right, her famous interview on
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
That's right, Jimmy Kimmel.
they're not called UFOs anymore, Jimmy. They're called UAPs. Well,
And
that
she
was
slightly mispronounced the phrase, which made me think, okay, so she was clearly, this was an agenda. And the Jimmy Kimmel people said, no, 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 it was totally unrehearsed. I'm like, are you kidding me? Hillary Clinton. Yeah, this was completely rehearsed. And so, right, there was a reason they were dropping that.
All of those questions are completely scripted in advance. Most I don't talk a whole lot about my past because it's not interesting. But I'll say this: in a past life, when I was in the music industry, I spent a lot of time, and when I say a lot of time over at the Tonight Show. Sometimes I was there 3 nights a week, and other shows too as well. Okay, CBS Late Night, the Late Late Show, and different productions here in Los Angeles with different bands that I was working with, and so I was at all of these shows. But what I would see is, it got to the point where I'm not kidding. I'd be at the Tonight Show and Leno would walk up and go, "Hey, church." It was like that. I was there way too much. But I got to see how the production was and how the writers got to deal with things and how interviews were done. Everything is scripted. There are no surprises. None. And so when Clinton is on or Obama is on or Hillary is on, and these questions about UFOs pop up, or alien contact or exoplanets, it's a message that is meant to be distributed. That's exactly what's going on, and this is done weeks in advance. This is not some sudden thing. I was at the Tonight.
Thank you for saying this, because this is a really important point. I'm really glad you're bringing this up.
I was at the Tonight Show, and I believe it was Hillary. Hillary's Bill's in office, okay? And Hillary, as First Lady, is going to be a guest on the show. I believe that's what it was. And I'm there doing my thing and hanging out. And the Secret Service shows up. And Tony, if you're listening right now, man, I miss you. Tony, the head of security for the Tonight Show, he'd been there for years, great guy. He's walking through with these 2 or 3, big buff Secret Service guys. Right. Okay, this is the green room, and then we hear, okay, how many exits? Okay, we got an exit here, and okay, and they're taken through. And I asked him later, I said, so what was that about? He goes, oh, Hillary's going to be here in 2 weeks. Now, think about that. Okay, he didn't show up the day of the show, right? This stuff is planned way in advance, way in advance. So yeah, I think that the message with UAPs was starting to, for whatever reasons,
I think that was a watershed moment. Actually, that interview.
You remember, John Burroughs and the release of those reports coming out of England, which had UAP all through them.
Yeah, the Condon report, I believe you're referring.
Yeah, the condom report, and the condom report.
Close.
Out of London. There probably is a condom report. We'll do another show on that, Richard. But I thought that was pretty interesting how the military and the Ministry of Defense at that time was specifically using UAP, and the way that they were commenting about the UAPs, that there was a couple of very specific paragraphs in there that really caught my eye, which clearly stated that this was something that they were used to, right?
I would just say I don't have a problem in general with the phrase UAP. It was actually coined, I believe, by the UFO researcher Richard Haynes. He's getting on there in years, but he's still around. And Richard Haynes, back in 1980, I believe, or thereabouts, coined this phrase. And again, it's legit. I wouldn't say that it isn't. But what I'm noticing is that this phrase now it's a rebranding of the UFO.
It's a rebranding. It's a safer word.
Exactly.
it is no longer a safer phrase, I should say, where UFO implies tinfoil hats and crazy people. That's what UFO, and you bring in the UAP. Now it's a rebranded, safe way to say this, where you're not implying somebody, crazy like me, right?
Now, here's a question now for a guy
It
like
sounds
you
more
and me.
scientific, doesn't it? Sound more scientific?
Well, it only does because the word UFO has gotten so much cultural baggage over the years. I mean, they brought UFO in during the 1950s to replace flying saucer, and that
Right.
at that time sounded more scientific. Um, but here's my question for you: can we envision a situation moving forward on YouTube in which, if you're going to talk about UAP on YouTube, you have to do it by talking about UAP, not UFO, or not talking about cover-ups? Like, are we going to get to a point where they're going to bring the censorship down on anyone talking about a UFO cover-up? I've been doing that for 20 plus years now, and I'm really genuinely wondering how much more time I have on platforms like YouTube to be able to say these things. I mean, I'm already finding out that I'm being taken into the YouTube principal's office for these little infractions. I talk about 9/11, ding, principal's office. We'll demonetize your video. Or if you talk about some of the other I talked about alien abduction. I'm almost afraid to say that on YouTube nowadays, because if you say that, they'll demonetize you for that as well. It's
So,
unbelievable. So I'm waiting for like anything else, any kind of conspiratorial cover up, political analysis, and they're just going to stop it. Do you think that's possible?
yeah. So this is what I'm doing right now. The answer is yes. And UAP video, right, is I'm doing the Google search. UAP video gives me a result of 10,400,000. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now let's just for grins here. UFO video, 123 million.
Yeah, vastly more, a factor of 10.
Vastly more. And so why would they do this? The point being, UAP is the safer way to go for YouTube. A lot less searches. It's a safer revenue suggestion to a return on marketing investments to an advertiser, as opposed to UFO video, which is going to give you 123 million
But
videos.
is it really safer? It's actually, I would think it's more lucrative if you go
It's
with the
more,
UFO
totally
term.
more, absolutely more lucrative.
Right.
There's no question about it. The first thing that I did, Richard, back in 1994, when I got the internet on my first laptop, you know what the first thing I
We're
did?
looking for UFOs.
No, porn.
Oh, oh. Well,
You
then we're looking for
myself.
UFOs.
Yeah. No, and this is what's crazy. It wasn't porn. It was UFO. That was my first thing that I wanted to have access to. And trust me on this, I'm not the only one.
Well,
Right.
here's the thing. I don't know if you know this. When I was researching this many, many years ago, it was obvious that the UFO subject was, I think, very possibly the first substantive subject to appear on the internet, when the internet was all those bulletin boards, news groups. The earliest news groups were tech stuff, like programmers talking to each other, nerds, computer nerds talking to each other. But the first non-computer bulletin board group to appear happened in 1986. It was by, I think, a guy named Jim Spicer, if I'm not mistaken, and I cannot remember the name of it. It was UFO something. It was a UFO board, and that was the beginning of 1986. And that actually, so we're talking ancient times of the internet, the UFO subject was, I think, very possibly the first subject of the internet, you could say.
Yes,
So
and and there were so many. I was at the tail end of that when I started to access the internet. But back then it was, and I'm going to actually change gears and stay on the UFO subject. We're talking about history, but Bill Cooper was one of the first guys on these bulletin boards,
Yes.
and what was going on back then and the sharing of information. But very early on, that's what was there. It was UFOs, and this is part of what built Silicon Valley. Going back to what I was saying, was built on rebels and freedom of thought, and the thought of them. I just said thought twice in one sentence, but the thought of them, those that write this code and develop these social media platforms for us to curtail freedom of thought and freedom of thought, freedom of ideas, not so much freedom of speech. That's a different thing. But getting ideas out and knowledge out and sharing information, that is what this wonderful internet was supposed to be about.
Right.
Between colleges, between libraries and people that had knowledge that needed to have a database so others could share that knowledge. That's what they're bringing the hammer down on.
Yeah,
Freedom of speech is different. Let me. I'm going to comment on this, and then I got to go back to my
You've
notes.
got 4 minutes.
Okay. Freedom of speech is different. Freedom of speech, you don't have. If you wanted to write an article and have it posted up in the New York Times, you don't have any rights to do that in freedom of speech. You can pay for an ad, you can pay for some op-ed, but if they say no, it's no. And it's no different with YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or anything else. You don't own those platforms. It's a privilege for you to have access to those platforms. It's not a freedom of speech issue there. Okay. Now, sharing of ideas.
I might disagree with you there, but I want you to finish your thought.
Well, the reason why is this: you can have all the freedom of speech that you want on those platforms if you play by the rules and stay in bounds. You can push it, but just stay in bounds.
The only problem with what you're saying, in my view, is that YouTube, Google, Facebook are all in bed with the government. They're all in bed with the intelligence community. They're all in bed with, in fact, with Facebook, explicitly neocon groups that, for example, push the whole Russia craze.
So is the New York Times and the LA Times.
So right. So what we're talking about are government. These are essentially government platforms. And the other thing about YouTube, you could really argue, and Google, is that they might and hopefully will one day be treated as public utilities, because they are, in a sense, they are in effect monopolies.
Right.
So it's not like even the New York Times, which is not a monopoly. But
Right.
YouTube, in terms of video platforming, is arguably a monopoly. So I think we could make a different point about it.
Yeah, but let me
Go on.
Actually finish this thought, which is, and it's very important. Alex Jones can talk about the man listening to us through light bulbs and monitoring us and conspiracies behind that. That's playing in bounds. Where you play out of bounds and where he got into trouble and where others get in the same trouble is when you say an untruth. And that, if you're going to take that tack and whatever it may be, and you get caught in that untruth, and which may be perceived as a lie, and especially about an individual, that's not freedom of speech. That's a whole different ballgame.
See, I disagree with you, and here's why I disagree with you. Because first of all, someone's got to be the arbiter of truth. Is that you? Is that Mark Zuckerberg? Who's deciding what is truth? So that's a real problem right there.
Right.
And to ban someone because they are saying something false is also, I think, a really dangerous thing to do, even if it actually is false. So are we at a point now where people are not allowed to say things that are wrong? People are not allowed to be wrong in public? Because that's mighty close to what you're saying, and I don't think that's what you mean to say.
That's right. And so all I am suggesting here is, as an individual, know where those boundaries are. That's all. Just know where the boundaries are, because the alternative to that is now Alex or others don't have the platform anymore, and so many are denied that because they just took it one step too far, and they knew it. That's all that I'm saying. Stay within the bounds. That's all. Sometimes it sucks to play by the rules. I don't like to drive at 55. I don't. I do. Right?
I wish we had started with this because I would love to continue with you. We're going to have to do this again. Maybe you get me on your show and we'll continue this point because I don't agree here. I see where you're coming from, but in my view, freedom of speech is paramount, and that includes the freedom to be wrong. And you're implying that Alex Jones was intentionally wrong, and I don't know if that's a valid argument. I don't think that he would agree with it.
Okay, and then we'll end on this though. Okay, so I'm talking about private platforms and freedom of speech. If you want to say something, you have the absolute freedom of speech protected by the Constitution to go out on the street with a bullhorn and say whatever you want. You have the right to create your own website or print your own newspaper and say whatever you want. You have those rights.
So far.
What you don't have the right to do is have the right to post something on my website because it's freedom of speech and you're demanding that I let you do it. No, I get that.
I get that. I'm just suggesting organizations as massive as Google, which is now engaging in its own censorship, or YouTube or Facebook, may not legitimately be seen as an ordinary company. And so that needs to be a different conversation. But look, you and I are going to have to continue this because we're out of time. We run out.
Let's continue it later. You are listening to The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA.
Thanks for listening. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other. Catch you next time.